guys, this is the Lala Legacy, and welcome back to another episode of SeaBed. So, let's jump right back in. I wrung out the rag. My skin broke out in goosebumps as I pulled my hand out of the water. Even the temperature felt lower in this lonely room. A gust of air touched my wet hand, making me shiver. The dry, cold air stimulated my nostrils through the mask as I inhaled. I considered the door and the windows. I had both of them closed to prevent the air circulation from disturbing all the dust in the room. Feeling an odd discrepancy about the atmosphere in the room, I tensed up. I slowly looked around myself. The room hasn't changed. The old and discarded pieces of furniture remained still and silent around me. I checked the corners of the room, but I still couldn't shake off this feeling of odd discomfort. As I slowly moved my head up and down, I suddenly started hearing a sound. It sounded like a faint howling coming from the distance. I strained my ears, falling completely motionless. The mysterious sound reminded me of the sobbing of the sea you could hear from seashells. It felt as though it came here from the opposite side of some long tunnel. I strained my ears again, hoping to maybe find a hole in the room somewhere. But this time, I heard a different sound. It was a weak, rumbling noise from beyond the window. It was coming from the direction of the road, growing louder and louder, until I heard the sound of tires running over dirt in the dirt of our parking lot. Opening the window, I peeked out and saw a car parked down below. After a few moments, its doors opened and Mayuko stepped outside. Welcome back! Welcome back! Mayuko looked up at me. Thanks. Aren't you a bit early? I might be. Could you come down and help me carry some of the bags? I thought you wanted me to clean your house. I brought presents. I closed the window and upon returning to the room, hung the rag on the edge of the bucket. Putting my cleaning duties on hold for the time being, I left the room. That's actually a pretty building, though. Hey, that was cute. Watercolors! Oh, this is a cute song. Sanai, I brought something cool for you. I entered Sanai's room and placed the wooden box atop the cabinet near the corner. As the waist-high glass window cabinet had nothing else on top of it, the box felt like it was meant to be placed there. What's that? A record player! Sanai was a bit overwhelmed at first, but once she heard my words, the corners of her lips curled up in anticipation. The front of the black wooden box had a drawer with a glass cover, as well as two square-shaped holes above it. The holes were plugged with what looked like a coarse cloth. I unplugged and fixed them with a metal fitting. Then, sticking my hand behind the box, I found a cable and pulled it closer to myself. With the cable in hand, I moved to my usual seat and bent over. I moved the cane chair out of the way with my free hand. I think it should be around here. And just as I expected, there was an electrical socket behind this cane chair. I plugged the cable in, still carried in my right hand, the cable I still carried in my right hand into it. Are you sure I can have it? It looks expensive. I stood up from under the shadow of the chair, brushing dust off my hands. I found it abandoned in the storeroom. I already have permission from Mayuko, and besides, I'm going to be listening to this as well, so you don't need to think too much about it. I picked up the brown paper bag I left by the cabinet earlier. I opened up its glass doors and began lining up the records I pulled out from the paper bag. I found the records alongside it, and there are some extras I found in the library later. I'll leave everything in your room, okay? Sure. Sanai adjusted the glasses on her nose, and the records... Blah, blah. I don't know why I can't read today. Sanai adjusted the glasses on her nose and gave the records a long, hard look from the distance. Well then, let's see if this thing still works. Is there anything you want to listen to, Sanai? I inspected the records with my fingers as I finished lining them up. I don't know much about music, so I'm okay with whatever you pick, Takako. Okay then. In that case, let's... I scanned through the records and picked out the one with the picture of an old blue, Pegot? I don't know. I don't know that word. On it. I took the record out of its case and placed it on the rotating turntable. I then raised the tone arm with my finger and slowly put it on the spinning record. After a brief noise, clear sound filled the room. That's a nice song. Seems to be working just fine. I picked up the record case. I don't think this is the right case, though. I wish Mayuko was more careful with these. Sanai let out a small snicker as I began investigating the other cases. It might not have been her. I haven't seen Mayuko use a record player before, so it's entirely possible that it was some other person. There were more people here before you came. Mayuko said the same thing. When you two put it like that, it sounds almost like it's my fault everyone left. Not at all. Everyone is free to come and go as they please. As they please, huh? Well, I suppose that's not entirely true. The sanatorium is open for people with special memory disorders, but it's not like it offers any kind of treatment. There's no clear treatment for what we have in any case. This is just a place for people who would find it problematic to survive on the outside because of their symptoms. As such, once that reason is no longer applicable, everyone leaves. That's all there is to it. For people who would find it problematic to survive on the outside, yes, the specific details of our conditions don't really matter beyond that. She added an extra "at all" for emphasis. What about the whole reason no longer being applicable part? What happened here exactly? For example, there was a person who couldn't do his job because of his fits. However, he eventually found a new occupation where he would work from home, which eliminated his reason for being here. I see. You won't cause anyone problems if the fit happens at home with no one else around. And you should be okay as long as you have your diary and memos. You can make do without being locked up in this place. That's right. There were some people who discovered the frequency of their fits, and after some planning managed to return to their normal lives. Now that I think about it, I haven't seen any of yours. When was the last time you had one? I realized I might have pried too deep, letting out an awkward, but there was no change in Sanai's expression. She simply asked if I was okay. You don't need to tell me if you don't want to. I don't really mind. Though in my case, it's been such a long time I don't think I remember anymore. Oh! I thought she was having trouble when I wasn't looking, but it seemed like that wasn't the case. But then, how long are you still planning to be here? Sanai considered the room's ceiling. Good question. I suppose I don't have a significant reason to remain here. It's just that I've been here for so long that going outside sounds too much of a hassle at this point. There was a reason I originally came, but after spending enough time here, I overcame it. After getting so used to this place, I could no longer find a good enough reason for leaving. You're only here because it's more convenient this way? Yes. After that, she fell completely silent. Well, I suppose this is a pretty relaxing place to be. There was little noise here, with no people around. Why are you here, Takako? Sanai addressed me just as I was about to change the subject. It's because of that damn ringing in my ears. I don't think it's anything serious, but everyone around me got needlessly worked up, and before I knew it, I was here. That's all. I see. Are you feeling better now? Yeah! It wasn't that bad to begin with. Sanai made a complicated expression of relief, mixing with slight disappointment. So, you're planning to leave soon, Takako? Nah! I've got no concrete plans yet. I see. Mayuko doesn't want to let her precious workforce go. Sanai made a complicated face again, almost as though she didn't know what to say. A slightly unfitting background music was playing behind her. It made me feel somewhat gloomy. It was difficult to describe, much like her expression from before. Well, that was a really cute scene with Sanai. I tried dropping by the night duty room after that night, but Mayuko wasn't there. With the door locked and me unable to wait inside, I had no choice but to return to my own room and lay down on the bed. The cold sheets I pulled on robbed me of warmth. I stretched my legs as far as I could, ignoring the cold. After shifting to my back, I closed my eyes. It had been a while since I'd seen that weird pattern behind my eyelids. It would sometimes flicker like an old film reel, and there were letters spinning around in spiral patterns. Upon closer inspection, I realized it was the alphabet. I wondered if it spelled out any sensible words, but soon realized that the letters would deform and change shape once I began to focus on them, so I stopped looking. All the conversations I had throughout the day raced through my mind. If only I had said this or that back then. As I began to ponder my conversation with Sanai, I suddenly realized that she never really told me why she was originally sent here. I wondered what was wrong with her. Was it some kind of untreatable fits? She said that only people who couldn't live normally on the outside would be sent here. Then she got better after spending some time at the sanatorium. But she never left, realizing that life was more convenient in this place. Nowadays, she worked mornings in the library and spent the rest of the day reading either there or in her own room. For an extreme bookworm like Sanai, life at a sanatorium was perhaps more comfortable than the outside world. I wonder if that could be true. I thought this was a place for people to seek temporary solace from hardship and fatigue of the real world. An environment completely isolated from the outside, where you'd relax and collect your thoughts for a while. Then once you had rested up, you would think of a way to resolve your problems. However, no matter how I looked at Sanai, she didn't seem to be particularly ill. Was she more suited for life in a sanatorium to begin with? Or did she only become that way after coming here? I remembered what she told me about how the whites of human eyes evolved. With them, you could indicate the direction of your gaze to your peers. In nature, it had the disadvantage of potentially revealing your escape route or target to others. However, in society, it had the benefit of helping communication. Sanai loved books and lived her life completely immersed in them. However, being outside, she'd have to allocate some of that time to other things, and that was most likely a big drawback for her. In here, she could work at a library, which was obviously a huge bonus. I felt that something about this wasn't quite right. I began to think, well, what problem in the outside world could have driven her to come to this place? Yet my train of thought soon drifted toward comparing the outside world to the sanatorium, nature to society, and evolution itself. I decided to return to my initial point. Sanai faced a certain problem outside. As a result, she ended up at the sanatorium. Here at the sanatorium, her problem was solved. She even preferred to live here now. If I had to draw a parallel with evolution, she was like a fish who used to live in the sea, but due to some problem, either a lack of food or too many predators, ended up evolving lungs to move to the surface. On the surface, there was plenty of food and few predators. As she spent her time on the surface, she developed arms and legs. Life there became even more convenient. I still felt like something was off about this. In this scenario, the fish left a poor environment for a richer one. The sanatorium, however, was an environment both smaller and poorer than the outside world. It reminded me of whales and dolphins that, despite having spent some time on the surface, always return to the sea. Sanai, unable to endure the rigorous competition that the otherwise plentiful and delicious food on land required, decided to return to this calm sea. Sanai was like a fish. I imagined her sitting on the bottom of the sea, reading a book, and chuckled to myself. I wished I could tell her to come up and bask in the sun at least once in a while. I could imagine her making a troubled face at that comment. She was looking at me. I felt a strong sense of deja vu. I suddenly heard a sound similar to what a phonograph would make as it reached the end of the record. All my thoughts were swept away in an instant. That was the sign of an ear-ringing fit. I fell completely motionless, trying to avoid causing any rustling. I took a deep breath as to not panic. So as not to panic. I could hear the sound of the air. Listening in, I slowly confirmed that no sounds seemed to be exaggerated. The ear-ringing didn't happen. Exhaling, I glanced at the clock on the side table. It was 1 a.m. Roughly the time I thought it would be. I closed my eyes again. I pulled the already warm sheets up to my shoulders. I fixed the position of the pillow to make sure my head was at the same height it would be when I was standing straight. After a while, I saw that weird pattern again. I felt like I could see Sanai in the form of a fish swimming through the darkness. Sleep wouldn't come just yet. The heels of my shoes clicked against the stone pavement of the inner yard. Surrounded by the walls of the sanatorium from 3 sides, the center of the inner yard gave home to a small hill with a tall camphor tree growing in the middle. It was surrounded by a stone-paved road, beds of flowers, and benches. Tired from walking, I walked closer to the tree, hoping to take a break in the shade of its leaves. Said leaves helped a little, though. They continued to shift, letting the sunlight through. However, light clouds began to gather in the sky instead. Ah! Good morning! Hey, Mayuko! Morning! What are you doing here? I'm taking care of the flowers. She was stooping in front of the flower bed with a small shovel in hand. Looking up, I saw that most of the sky was already blanketed by clouds. Clouds seem to be kind of assembling above us. Are you sure you're gonna be okay? Mayuko looked up at the sky as well. On the radio, they said it would be a clear day. Indeed, according to the broadcast, the possibility of rain today was 0. I listened to that as well, but I'm not sure if I could trust it with the sky being the way it is now. Mayuko returned her gaze to me. I think I should still be okay if I finish my lunch. Is there anything I can do to help? Are you sure? As long as you make me some tea afterwards. Sure. Mayuko narrowed her eyes and smiled. I crouched in front of one of the flower beds and dug a hole in the soil, mimicking Mayuko. I took out the seedling from the pot that she had with her and stuck it in the hole, covering its roots with dirt. Here you go, Takako. She handed me a pot with a small flower of purple, red, and white petals. That's a cute one. How come it has multiple colors? Is that heartsease? It's called a primrose. Mayuko answered me in a cheerful tone. She had about 20 seedlings with her. Those flowers were just as colorful as Heartsease. Even in their randomly aligned pots, they still looked beautiful. But that is all the time that I have for this episode, guys. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up down below. And if you haven't already, subscribe. By subscribing, you're becoming part of a legacy. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!